Julian Assange is now preparing to release more leaked emails, and this time he says they will, quote, provide enough evidence to indict Hillary Clinton. Assange also made it clear there is no evidence of Russian involvement in the email hack, despite the Clinton campaign's claims. For details on this story, we go now to Laura Smith in the UK.
Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, of course, is still holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy here in London. But once again, he's proven that he's not just sitting there twiddling his thumbs. Not content with releasing 20,000 emails from the Democratic National Committee, Assange now says he'll be releasing more material that he says will provide enough evidence to see Hillary Clinton arrested. He's given a series of interviews in which he says that there's no proof whatsoever that the emails that he's already released came from Russian sources. He says that the DNC servers were ripe for hacking, that they're riddled with holes, and that documents hacked over a number of years are out there in the public domain in multiple copies. He says when the Clinton campaign talks about having proof that the emails were hacked by Russians, he says, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're not talking about my leak. In fact, he's quite coy about the whole thing. Of course, WikiLeaks likes to create maximum ambiguity about where its information comes from. It's very hot on the protection of sources. And he said maybe one day our source or sources will step forward and some people will have egg on their faces, or read into that what you will. Of course, he's at pains to say that it's not important where the emails come from. What's important is what's in them. And what we have now, he says, is the Clinton campaign using information about past hacks to divert attention away from what's actually in those emails. But that this diversionary tactic itself raises questions. Clinton here is presented with a political scandal, and what she does is blame the Russians, blame the Chinese, according to Assange. And if she does that in government, he says that's a style that could cause serious conflict. What of the content of those emails, though? Well, the leaks, of course, rocked the beginning of the DNC and brought about the ouster of its chairwoman. What they do, Assange says, is show collusion at the very top of the Democratic Party to get rid of Bernie Sanders. He argues that Clinton, of course, may have won the nomination anyway, but now it's impossible to know, so that her nomination de facto has no political legitimacy. WikiLeaks, as Assange said, is set to release further emails, and it's clear that he thinks these could be the nail in Hillary Clinton.
The Dow firing on all cylinders, hitting 25,000 for the first time in history. It's the 7th 1,000-point milestone since President Trump's election. So where's all the media coverage? Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Klayman, and welcome to Cashin' In. And while everybody seems to be focusing on Steve Bannon and claims made in this book called Fire and Fury, little to no coverage of a market and economy on fire. Is that flat out wrong? Our Cashin' In crew this week: Rachel Campos Duffy, Jerry Willis, Gary Kaltbaum, and Jessica Tarlov. Welcome, everybody. Gary, I'm going to start with you. You say we're seeing a double standard here. Why?
Well, we spent the week listening to those famed physicians, Joe and Mika, saying that the president had dementia. You have psychiatrists going to Congress without diagnosis saying he's unstable, and completely forgetting about $7 trillion of wealth created because of the election and since the election. And I can just go on and on. Just yesterday, it was announced 2 million less people on food stamps. 4% unemployment, GDP's in the threes. Because of the tax bill, now 600,000 people having $600 million in bonuses, plus a lot more going on there. What's so important about all that? We need to talk about cheeseburgers and whether the president eats them or not in bed.
Well, Jerry, you could argue that it's called news because it's supposed to be new, and there are a bunch of competing factors here. Headlines, not just Steve Bannon, but also when you talk about the weather, this deep freeze. I mean, it's warmer in Saskatoon than it is in New York City. So well, could you give him that?
You got that right, but I got to tell you, at the end of the day, 25,000 on the Dow. Whoever thought we would see this, right? Now the Atlanta Fed saying we're going to have economic growth in excess of the threes, unemployment at a 17-year low. Let me tell you how bad this has got. A couple of weeks ago, op-ed in the New York Times said, hey, we don't like this growth, too much growth, ooh, bad, bad. Really? Who believes that? We love growth. Let's get bigger. Let's get this economy going. That's what most Americans think.
1,000-point gains over and over since the election. Here's a tweet from President Trump, and he has been beating the bushes when it comes to getting the word out. Here in this one, he just said the fake news media barely mentions the fact that the stock market just hit another new record and that business in the U.S. is booming. But the people know. Can you imagine if O, meaning Obama, were president and had these numbers? It would be the biggest story on earth. Dow now over 25,000. Jessica Tarlov, what's going on here?
Well, I think there's a little bit of media bias here, and I think there's a lot that President Trump has brought on himself. Yes, a little, Gary. Give me that in 2018. This is a story, and we know that the sizable cuts to the corporate tax rate is spurring this. I mean, investors have been waiting for this to happen and have been getting excited all year, and now we're seeing the profits from it, as it were. I think President Trump is certainly within his rights to be talking about it, but he should be talking about other things less, like the size of his nuclear button. He should lay off the sloppy Steve stuff and just focus on this and the big win with the GOP tax reform bill. I would also like to add, as you brought up the physicians, Joe and Mika, there was rampant speculation that Hillary Clinton had Parkinson's disease, that President Obama was also mentally unstable. Conservative media goes after liberal heroes. Liberal media goes after conservative heroes, and that's the way that it works.
They said the same thing about Ronald Reagan. Oh, he's losing it. George Bush. It's just
it's awful, but it goes across the board.
The vitriol behind this is unprecedented. The negativity, the level of nastiness. I think. I don't know. Well,
let's talk about the birther movement then. If you want to talk about the level of negativity, I mean that's something that's unprecedented for sure. We're talking about the President of the United States of America, that he wasn't born here and that he's a secret Muslim.
When you ask people, though, Rachel, what matters to them most, it most often will top it with the economy and pocketbook issues. This should be splashed across the newspapers. Of course, we at Fox Business on the Business Channel side are making a huge deal of this because can you imagine if we didn't, then we're not telling the real story of what's going on.
Look, Barack Obama would have killed for these numbers. I mean, he presided over one of the worst recoveries since the Great Depression.
Well, not with the stock market. Let me clarify. The stock market jumped 100% during his term, but go ahead.
Exactly, but it's more than the stock market because you talk about what really matters to people. Over 2 million jobs created. Remember, President Trump said he would be the greatest jobs president America's ever seen, and he's delivering on that. Not just that, we're seeing a renaissance in manufacturing jobs that the Democrats said would be gone forever. Remember, they said we had to go to a green economy and invest in Solyndra. Manufacturing's back. 25,000 jobs added in just December, 200,000 overall. And remember, in 2016, we lost 16,000 manufacturing jobs. And one last point that's important, he's breaking another mold in the way we thought. Everybody thought having an African-American president would be great for minorities. Turned out not to be true. Under Barack Obama, minorities fell into poverty. Their unemployment was high. Under Trump, we have record low unemployments, record-breaking, never before seen for Hispanics.
Yeah, it is a record today.
Mining, logging, all these things that they said were going away have come back. Donald Trump's delivering, and I would be stinking mad if I was him, if I wasn't getting the credit we know would go to Barack Obama if he had
Don't forget regulations. Don't forget regulations. That's an important Gary.
Let me jump in here, Gary. When the Steve Bannon story jumped out, that is very titillating for nearly every media outlet, whether it's conservative or not. They're treating David Koresh right now like a David Koresh from the alt-right when it comes to Steve Bannon, and that's huge headlines. They're trying to sell papers. Do you buy that argument?
Well, look, the corks are popping off the champagne. When I drive and listen, when I turn on the TV and watch, it is 24/7. They are not reporting news. They are prosecuting an administration based on sources said. Sources said. And with Bannon, I don't know what's going on there. He says one thing, and yesterday he came out and said the president's great, wonderful. I could care less, and I can tell you the 200 million people, most of them, who go to work every day to do better for their families and their children and their lives, could not care less. They want to know that the administration is setting the conditions for greatness of this country. Less regulations, lower taxes are doing the job right now. And look, I don't know how long it lasts or how far it goes, but $7 trillion in wealth speaks volumes since the election. I am ridiculously surprised about that number myself, and I've watched every market and I have studied every market going back 100 years.
Well, when you talk about hockey and you make that analogy, you know that Wayne Gretzky always says, go where the puck is going versus where it actually is at the moment. When we look ahead, Jerry, and you've watched this extraordinarily closely, we do not have a long-term budget right now that has been approved.
It's true.
We're facing another government shutdown. And where is that discussion? You know, you got to take the bad with the good as well.
Well, we've got a long way to go on a lot of really fundamental issues. And my fear is now that we've hit January, that the big, great thing that this administration has done is tax reform. And getting past that and doing more is going to be hard. They want to do infrastructure. They want to do health care. They've got a long list of priorities they want to go after. But it's going to take a lot of work. And when it comes to the budget, you've got to have some Democrats signing on board with you. That's going to be super difficult. I think the road is still uphill. And you better believe that Donald Trump is going to use his bully pulpit Twitter account to get it done.
Can I just say one thing? If they don't do anything about the debt and deficits over the next 10 years, there will be a day of reckoning. I can promise you that. We're 21 trillion. We're headed to 30 trillion plus. That is the next thing that has to be addressed. And unfortunately, it will be entitlements. Somebody's got to start it, hopefully soon.
Oh, joy.
The only way to do that is through growing the economy. And the only way to do that is growing the economy and also reducing spending. So I think Donald Trump and the Republicans have got a good start on that.
Where?
Yeah, the Republicans are spending just like Democrats.
Everyone is spending right now.
I don't spend an enormous amount of time worrying about being objective because I'm not a objective journalist. I never pretend to be. I think I'm pretty fair, though. I mean, I think I'm a fairly. I mean, I think I can be really fair, and I say Trump shouldn't have done this, and maybe he should do it this way. And I mean, I try to give good advice, I guess, to people who they want to win and want to get elected and who are conservatives, but I'm a conservative. I'm not pretending to be anything different. But these guys pretend that they're objective, and most people feel that nothing could be further from the truth. And when they feel like they're being called racist, when they don't agree that a statue should be pulled down in the middle of the night, or that they're clinging to their guns and religion and they're just dumb for believing in the right to carry a firearm or the right to drive, a big honking truck if they want to. That they're not dumb, they're not stupid. These are Americans. These are the same people who volunteer for our military, help their fellow man, work in their communities, create jobs, volunteer in their churches. These are Americans just like the illegal immigrants that the media kowtow to day in and day out. But you have no one to blame but yourself for this climate. And it's a little late for the media to be worrying about the coarseness of the culture, isn't it? Conservatives have been worrying about the coarseness of the culture since the late 60s. And now they're like, wow, people are giving us the finger. No, you wouldn't do that 55 years ago. You wouldn't do that. That's not the way people behave. But guess what? They can give the finger to the ICE officials. They can block an ICE officer from going in and out of his office, call him a racist, follow him home, and CNN is nowhere to be found. No, not worried about that culture. Well, Jim Acosta said because he had his very dainty sensibility offended. Jim Acosta saying what? What did he say again?
Honestly, it felt like we weren't in America anymore.
Was that America? Was that Trump rally America when they were pummeling that guy in the head? Is it America when people are just walking across the border and expecting to be, to get all the benefits of the American citizenship? Is that America? Didn't feel like America? Is it America to have an American press corps so devoted to pushing this man out of office that they lose all sense of objectivity on a daily basis? Forget a daily basis, on an hourly basis. You can only kick people for so long. That's why he doesn't understand. This is part of the reason why Trump got elected. Because the people feel like they are looked down upon by a media culture that considers them stupid. Stupid. And election night, a lot of these people on these panels, Dinesh D'Souza's movie, I saw the beginning of it last night at the premiere here in Washington, and he had a great open with all these anchors and the Young Turks, that show on election night, and women on the panel was like, Americans, you're just blank and stupid. You voted for this guy? Like after the election returns came in, they were just dumbfounded that Americans could be, in their words, so blank and stupid. They're not stupid now. They elected Donald Trump. They support Donald Trump. And if you're not going to be fair, and the culture that the media help create, they're going to express themselves.
These opinions that these folks have at these rallies, they're shaped by what they see in the primetime hours of Fox News and what they hear from some conservative news outlets that just sort of give them this daily diet of what they consider to be terrible things that we do over here at CNN. It's very unfortunate, but it's a pitting of American against American, and honestly, it needs to stop.
Pitting American against American, huh? See, I thought that's what identity politics was all about. I thought the way the media loved to slice and dice the electorate and African American, it's Native American, it's everybody has their different hyphenated world that they live in. And I get that. We all want to, I guess, identify them ourselves, but I mean, that old, the idea that Americans are pitted against Americans, again, they created this. We didn't create this. We want all Americans to be, to love our history and, our warts and all, and understand that we've grown and changed. But we have a great, amazing tradition of liberty and freedom and opportunity. And boy, have we come a long way, baby. And we want to remind our young people that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you believe in our Constitution, or the work ethic, you can do really well in this country. Doesn't matter what your skin color is or your gender or anything. That doesn't matter. What matters is you work hard, you're an American. And if someone is going to deny you an opportunity on the basis of your race, we will call you out. We will call them out. But overall, this is just a great time to be an American. The media are responsible for stoking America's anger and resentment. The politics of resentment is all over CNN. Let's go to Bo in South Carolina. Bo.
Hey, Laura. I just want to touch on the fact that, there's going to be a massive landslide that I could all predict of hypocrisy because this poor gentleman food, and it's going to be about how savage conservatives are. Oh, they're so disrespectful. Their nut jobs are easy, and yet, as you touched on earlier, people are being assaulted at Trump rallies, having things thrown at them, being cursed at, and everything else. But yet, that's going to all fall by the wayside now because this poor gentleman's sensibilities were damaged, and he got booed. It's going to be conservatives.
Yeah, well, he doesn't like a taste. He doesn't like a taste of their own medicine. Conservatives have been treated like second-class citizens on college campuses, in the workplace. Conservative actors and in the entertainment industry can't get hired. In the military, we have generals fired for believing, for being Bible-believing people. So, I mean, conservatives have been, again, they've been dealing with this for decades. It's gotten worse over the last 20 years. Until Trump came along and he said, guess what? I'm just like you. America's going to be great again. You don't have to be ashamed for believing in God, for saying Merry Christmas, for thinking our country is special. You don't have to feel bad for any of this. You know, because we're not going to let China take this over. We're not going to be treated as rubes in these trade deals. We're not going to allow people to walk across our border and just call it a day. No, that's not what we're going to do. That's what the other people did. You're special because you are Americans. You're special people. I'm going to treat you that way. And the media, they want to be unfair. They can expect people to probably be unfair in return. Treat the American people with more respect, and you'll get more respect in return. We have a lot to get to on the Laura Ingraham Show. And by the way, have you ever taken your car in for a basic repair and then you find out, surprise, you get a bill that you didn't expect at all because it's not just an oil change, it's something major with a transmission or another part of your engine, and oh my gosh, you're out several $100s, even $1,000 or more. Rather not. No thanks, Dan. I mean, so the media, it's only gotten worse since the cable news, and you know, you're exposed to it 24/7. It used to be you were exposed to it for, 22 minutes a night because the evening news was usually a half hour long. It was at 7 o'clock, usually 6:30. And that's all you really saw. So it wasn't like it was in your face all the time, the bias. It was in the newspaper. But and television, when someone becomes a personality, now it's there all the time. No matter where you go, you turn around, airports, whatever, you're